My name is Barbara Lee. I'm a member of Congress from the 9th Congressional District of California, which includes Oakland and Berkeley, California.
Now there is a lot of talk about ending AIDS. What is your comment on this?
Well, we must end AIDS. And by saying that and by working toward that, we will end AIDS. I've said earlier that it's been a little too quiet. People are becoming complacent. People have forgotten that we still have a huge epidemic in America and throughout the world. And so at this conference, we need to recommit ourselves to increase funding for PEP FAR and the Global Fund and for our own American HIV AIDS strategy and program. But we also need to begin to look at how we include vulnerable populations. That's how we end AIDS, and by including sex workers, men who have sex with men. We need to include everyone who's at risk and ensure that everyone has access to treatment and prevention.
What kind of obstacles do you see to get to this goal, ending AIDS?
Well, there are many obstacles, but I have a lot of hope, and I think when I see the world community coming together, I'm even more convinced that we can end AIDS. We have to remove the terrible discriminatory barriers against injecting drug users, men who have sex with men, sex workers, all of our vulnerable populations. We have to do that, and we need to do that immediately. Once we do that, then I think we can really begin to talk about effective strategies. And I think that the politics and the political climate of every country is going to dictate how we move forward. It's certainly a challenge in my own country, but it was a challenge when we started working to lift the travel ban, and here we are in Washington, D.C. at the 19th International AIDS Conference.
How do you feel about that, 22 years after the San Francisco?
Well, I'm so disappointed that we didn't do this earlier and that discriminatory and unjust travel ban was in place. But after in 2007, I led a movement in Congress to actually get the travel ban lifted. It was bipartisan. President Bush signed the law. President Obama lifted the ban. And so I'm very pleased that the work that we began, where people said, no, it couldn't be done, and we said, yes, we can, we did.
And also now you took an initiative in the new bill, including the risk groups, the vulnerable groups.
Absolutely, and as I said, that's essential if we're going to see an AIDS-free generation, and we have to address most vulnerable populations. If we don't, we'll never see an end to AIDS. So my legislation really will repeal the anti-prostitution pledge, which I never supported. I thought it was horrible, and it will begin to really look at our human family and not discriminate against anyone.
The slogan for this conference is turning the tide together. What does that slogan mean to you?
That slogan means so much because we have many scientific advances already. Treatments as prevention, we have medication, we have, many ways now to not only save lives, but to enhance the quality of life. And so we're beginning to turn the tide, and it's together. But we also have to remember that the world, in many respects, is very complacent. So it's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call that we have to go to work to complete the work that has been begun.
And in this conference, what is your message, your personal message?
My personal message is welcome to the United States, first of all. Secondly, my message is I want the world to see what is taking place in America, especially as it relates to the African American community, men who have sex with men, gay and bisexual African American men, African American women, and communities of color. We have some horrific statistics here in our own country. These are people who need access to care and treatment. In many communities, the rates are comparable to some rates in sub-Saharan Africa. And so I want the world community to look at what's taking place here, and I want to be able to share some of our best practices and some of the things that we're doing here that may be able to help the international community address HIV and AIDS in a bigger way. And so I'm very pleased that we have the coming together of the domestic HIV AIDS plight and activists, scientists, medical professions, organizations coming together with the international and with the rest of the world. And finally we can be one family and turn the tide together.
During the history of the global response to HIV and AIDS, 30 years, the United States has been a leader. How do you see this leadership in the coming years?
Part of the challenge for myself is to make sure that the Congress continues to lead. We have many members of Congress, new members, many of the members who helped work together as Republicans and Democrats either have passed on or are no longer in Congress. So it's going to be a challenge. When you have a Congress that is focused only on deficit reduction, not on job creation, not on protecting the safety net, and in no way wanting to increase funding for global health and for HIV and AIDS and all of our initiatives, then we have to work together to really sound the alarm and beat the drum and really recognize that we have a lot of work to do in our own country to develop or continue with the political will, and that's our job.
What is it that you yourself are most proud of when it comes to the United States and fighting HIV and AIDS?
Well, I'm most proud of the fact that my constituents from Oakland and Berkeley, California, people in the United States of America can finally participate in an international conference where they will be able to learn so much, and they'll be able to make friends and meet people and share best practices. And so I'm most proud of the fact that this opportunity now is there. And I'm so happy that the movement in this country and our nonprofit organizations and our everyday people who are working so hard, our heroes and sheroes, some of whom are here, have really made this happen. And so I salute them.